So before I get started on this review, I'd just like to clarify the reason the fingernails are longer on my right hand is because I use it for fingerpicking guitar. So I know sometimes people like to comment about that, so just getting it out of the way right now. So, welcome to another review. It was only a matter of time before I reviewed a Beats by Dre product, and it just so happened that just this, not that long ago, my housemate went ahead and bought these from her workplace, and she's very happy with them. She chose the luxury red, which I think is very nice looking, kind of like a ripe apple. So this is the Beats Solo 2 pair of on-air headphones. Now, before I get started on talking about these headphones in particular, Beats in general, I'm sure you're all very familiar with them. They've become a bit of a meme in audio circles. Like Beats, they supposedly just sound terrible. Back when they first came out, the first generation one made by Monster were considered absolutely atrocious. And just I didn't hear them personally, but from what I've heard, they were just really awful. Like just muddy bass machines with mids dipped and highs dipped and something like that. So very unpleasant. Now, these are probably the most popular pair of headphones to this day. If you go out in the street, most of the time, if you see someone wearing a pair of like on-ear headphones, they'll be Beats. I'm not exaggerating. I've seen it in New York. I've seen it in Brussels. I've seen it here in London too. So, just saying. And okay, here's a positive thing about Beats. I talked to several people at CanJam about the influence that Beats has had on the audio market, the headphone market in particular, and they usually told me the same thing. Like one or two people said, oh, I don't like it when I see all these millennials walking around wearing Beats, but they all concede one thing. Beats made it okay for people to spend a certain amount of money on audio gear, or rather headphones. It made it okay. It broke that taboo that, oh, you're buying a pair of headphones that costs upwards of $100. Apparently that existed before. Well, because of Beats now, with some of them I think can go up to several $100s, that's been broken. And the people who tend to buy them, usually they tend to graduate towards something else. Usually, sometimes I guess. So it's their first major headphone purchase over a certain amount of money. But we aren't talking about the Monster Beats today. We are talking about the Solo 2. Now the Solo 2 is actually very well regarded. Inner Fidelity has this on their Hall of Fame, enclosed on-air headphones. And lots of people have told me that these actually are quite really good for the price. And you can pick them up for anywhere between $80 to $100 on the used market. And the used market, even here in England, if you go to Gumtree or eBay, you type in headphones, you'll see a ton of various colors of the Solo 2. So, yeah, you can pick these up for quite a bit cheaper than what they are retailing for. But these are brand new. These were bought for about, I'm not sure exactly, but on Amazon UK today the price is £153 for the Beats Solo 2 Luxe Red Edition. So let's get that out of the way, and now let's talk about the build quality. But first let's talk about the cable. This is the matching cable that comes with the headphones. It's not that long. It's about the same size as you'd expect for a portable cable, which these are, portable headphones. And you have a mic and an on-off switch right here. And of course, this is in the era before Apple did away with their 3.5mm jack. So this is from 2014, I believe. So you still have the 3.5mm jack is what I'm trying to say. And the way it connects is pretty simple. There's not even really a locking mechanism such as on the Sennheiser HC598. It's just simple. You just plug it in and you're set. That's all. There's no twists or turns or something to lock it in. Nope, you can just do that. So pretty cool that you can just easily plug it in. the look of these, I have to admit, I can understand why these are a coveted luxury product. Yes, these are a fashion item, or rather I think they were more back in the day. I'm not sure exactly how they trend nowadays, but people like how these look. And yeah, they do a lot of, yeah, they just look like really sleek headphones. You have these really, you have the ripe apple look of the finish itself, and then you have the ripe apple look of the ear pads, and it contrasts with a very nice snow white all over. That's just the looks. And speaking of the finish, this finish is a fingerprint magnet. This finish is a grime magnet and a dust magnet. So you'll have to be wiping it clean pretty much every day, or maybe every 2 days, if you want it to look new and pristine and brand new like this one does right now. So beyond that, the build quality, I would say, let's see, I believe that it creaks a lot. Like, these don't feel that solidly built to me. Now, what am I comparing it to? Okay, I'll compare it to the M50X. I believe that the M50X was built quite a bit more solid than this. There's a certain amount of looseness in where the cups meet the rest of the headphones that I feel is not ideal, in my opinion. But they can pivot and, you know, oh, they're also foldable, which is a big advantage these can have over some other headphones. And the padding on the top is very minimal. This is not, okay, I know it's going in when I press it like that, but it's really not that much. It's really not that much at all. And similar to that, the padding on the ear pads, it looks like a lot. When you look at this, you're like, oh, those ones look so comfortable. It's really not that much. Because when these clamp on your head, and there is a clamp to this, it's going to press really hard. Like, these do not provide much resistance at all. These just, your ears will go in here and then it'll just press against the hard part. So, for that reason, and for the headband reason, and for the clamp reason, like these clamp quite a bit, I find these very uncomfortable to wear. I can wear them for about an hour, and then I have to take them off. I think my record was an hour and a half. So keep that in mind if you're going to consider these. And also keep in mind that many on-ear headphones have similar problems, like my Bear Dynamic DT1350 that I reviewed a long time ago. That also had a problem with the air cups, air pads, feeling hot over time or not that comfortable. But this takes the cake. That was nothing compared to how this feels after an hour. It's just painful. So that's what I think about the build quality. And of course you have the incremental adjusters. They look nice in terms of build quality. They're a bit of a mirage. They look very nice from a distance, but when you put them on and you have, let's say, a medium to slightly large size head, you're going to have a bit of trouble with how it clamps, how it feels, and how it sounds. Because this pair of headphones sounds not that great to me. Now, let me start this off by saying, like I said earlier, the Monster Beats, Beats by Dre headphones, those had a terrible reputation, absolutely atrocious reputation. Compared to that, these are a godsend, according to many people online. That being said, when I put these on, I had an open mind, because I wanted to like them, I guess, a little bit, because, like I said, they've become a bit of a meme. Bashing on Beats has become such a meme. It's become something that not only like snotty audiophiles do, people who have no idea about audio, once they read that Beats aren't that good, they'll parrot that and repeat it all the time and just tell people who buy Beats, they'll be like, oh, you bought Beats, man, that's, you know those suck, right? That kind of attitude, I don't like that attitude so much. I wanted to keep an open mind about this. I wanted to review it for what it is and see why it's on some Hall of Fames like Tiles, and see why some people like this. So I put them on. I plugged them first I plugged them into my Ibasso DX80 digital audio player. Listened to a lot of FLAC files. I just went through the entire library on shuffle, listening and listening. And I have to admit, I really did not like how the mid clarity was on the low side, very low side. By mid clarity, I mean if you have instruments like guitars, you have instruments like vocals, they did not sound that great. They sounded stifled. They sounded like there was a piece of, at times, paper. If you have if you have a very treble heavy recording, and you're listening to them on these, it sounds like you have a sheet of paper between the driver and your ear. But if you're listening to a more normal, I guess, recording where it's not so treble heavy, it's just a bunch of bass and mids, like a pop song, it sounds like you have cardboard between the drivers in your head. That is how stifled it sounds to me. When I heard that at first, I thought, well, that's a bit of a disappointment, because I do love my mid sound. Now, to be completely honest about this has a warm sound to it, and I tend to really, really like warm sounding headphones and warm sounding equipment, as long as it's not overdone. I like the ZMF Omni for that reason. I like the Meze 99 for that reason. I like a lot of headphones for that reason. And it is probably the mid-bass, the bassy and mid-range focused sound is probably the sound signature that many people prefer, because these are being described as a consumer-friendly sound signature. I feel like consumer-friendly is a little strange, because I guess that what they're trying to say is people like bass and not much else. Because even though these do have a mid-range, and you can hear when you're listening to these, you can listen to the mid-range, it feels chunky, it feels like it has some heft to it, it has a good amount of, it doesn't feel like it's rolled off or V-shaped. Or recessed, I mean, rather. But it's not very clear. The vocals are not going to come out very clearly. If you're listening to an acoustic guitar, it's not going to ring out so clearly in the mix. The bass is great. The bass is great. That is what this thing does properly. The bass in these headphones, even though they're not the sharpest or fastest or anything like that, but we're not talking about that in this price range. We're just talking about how the bass extends, how it just feels overall. It extends very low. The sub bass on this is pretty nice. The mid bass on this is also pretty nice, but it bleeds into the mids and it reduces the mid clarity in quite a way. So I'm not going to draw a graph or anything, but basically if you have a bass emphasis and you're going towards the mids, right, it's eating up some of the mids, and then the mids themselves, the upper mids, are also recessed because you have a significant treble roll off on these headphones. The treble is comfortably extended treble is a term that I use in my reviews to mean the treble has been rolled off a bit, so it's not sibilant, but it's still there. I mean, you can still appreciate it. Maybe sometimes you can hear a bit of snappiness from it, like the Focal Lair. But in this, it feels like they took a hatchet and they just chopped off huge chunks of treble. So it feels very, very muddy. It feels almost like if I'm listening to some of my favorite music on this, I'm listening, let's say I listened to, which I did, listen to Metallica's new album on this, the cymbals didn't feel like anything. You had all this mid-bass emphasis and treble reduction where it felt like my ears were being slightly choked. Now I know that's a bit dramatic, but it did feel like that. It felt like there was a whole frequency range that I was missing out on, which made this feel stifling to me. And I'm not a treble head at all. Like I said, I enjoy warm headphones with comfortably extended treble, so slightly rolled off treble for comfortable, smooth listening. These should have given me that, but the hatchet job they did with the treble is not to my liking, and honestly, anyone who likes clear headphones and slightly balanced headphones shouldn't like those either. So, the overall sound signature of this, once again, just like I heard about the Monster Beats, they might have done a better job since then. I don't deny that, but it's still very bassy, bass focused, mid-bass focused. the mids are not that clear, and the highs are chopped off. And that's apparently the consumer-friendly sound. Now this is the reason why when I was reading this very nice box, by the way, like they really know, I will give them this, they know how to market headphones. This looks amazing. This whole color scheme, the white, like just like the headphones themselves, the white and apple red, incredible. But then I read that. Let's see if it focuses. With Beats, people are going to hear what the artists hear and listen to music the way they should, the way I do, by Dr. Dre. That is marketing speak at its finest. I cannot, it's like a fine wine of delusion. I'm bashing on it, I know, but that's because I know. I know that any self-respecting producer, and Dr. Dre is a great producer, do not take that quote seriously. Because if you try to do production with this pair of headphones, you're going to mess up everything. These are not neutral at all, and they shouldn't be. Consumer-friendly sound, easy listening, they shouldn't be completely neutral. But to say that the way the artists hear them, like suppose you have an artist sitting in the studio listening to monitors, listening to the music being played back to them so they can think of what to do next. You're not going to listen to that on Beats. You just aren't. It's not an accurate representation of music. And I'm not even talking about the clarity here. I'm just talking about overall. It's not an accurate representation of music. So that marketing lingo is just marketing lingo. In fact, I feel a little hesitant bringing this into the conversation, but just because we're talking about a certain sound signature, even though this is nowhere in the same price range, like I said, this is £150, this is about £250-ish, or 300 euros. The Meze 99 Classics. The Meze 99 Classics is exactly what the Beats Solo 2 should have sounded like. It's the same amount of bass, the same amount of sub-bass extension, the same amount of mid-bass, but it doesn't bleed so heavily into the mids. It does give it a bit of a slightly mid-bassy sound, but the mids on this are very clear. Like, I can't stress that enough. The mids on this are what this should have been. When I'm listening to a song in the Meze 99, I don't feel like I'm missing out on vocal clarity or guitar clarity. I listened to Metallica's new album, it sounded great. And the extension of the treble is quite good. It's rolled off, but it's quite good. So essentially, this is everything that the Beats wants to be, but isn't. And people might look at this design and say, oh, that's not for me. I can understand that. I like it personally, but it's a love it or hate it kind of design. This is also slightly heavier than the Beats, which is about 200 grams. A very light pair of headphones, by the way. This is slightly heavier. And of course, these aren't as portable, they're not foldable, and all that. But this, just pure sound quality wise, this trumps that at its own game. So, if Meze come out with a headphone which is priced around the same price as Beats, and it does about the same things right as the Meze 99, I would easily recommend these over the Beats any day. But right now I can't, because this is a significant jump higher in price. But I just wanted to let it be known that everything that the Beats tries to do, this does better. To sum it up, the Beats Solo 2 are a very nice looking pair of headphones. They come in various, very well designed colors, and they do look like a bit of a fashion item compared to several headphones that I've seen, especially you people who like stacks out there. Yeah, these look much better. But the sound quality to my ears is not worth the price. It's probably worth the used price you can get for these, and it's not worth the discomfort that you feel by wearing these. Like, if you have a smaller head, by all means go ahead and get these, but if you have a medium to large size head, you will suffer. I gave these headphones a fair chance. I'm honest here, and I wanted to like them, but memes aside, when there's smoke, there's fire. There is a certain amount of clarity reduction in these headphones compared to so many other headphones. So that's been my review of the Beats Solo 2, and thank you for watching.